I'm Sandy Barker, president and co-founder of Gold Rush Cure Foundation. Welcome to our first Rush podcast, videoed from Southern California. So this is very much out of my comfort zone, but we hope that these podcasts will give you a little view, a little glimpse of what we do at Gold Rush Cure Foundation, kind of behind the scenes, in addition to some inspiring stories of hope, of compassion, and of courage. This first story is going to be very raw and very real. And this first story is our personal story of our families. So up until May 6, 2006, I was a mom like many moms out there. I spent my weekends with soccer games, watching my kids play video games, cheerleading, baseball. It was crazy and it was busy and I loved every minute of it. So who would have thought that almost 15 years ago, I would have been sitting in a hospital room at Chalk and then at Seattle Children's, watching my oldest son, Christian, fight for his life as he battled cancer. And I did this with many other moms that were in the same shoes as I was in. Fortunately, most people don't know what happens during this journey. There are so many challenges that parents face moms and dads during this journey. There's also a lot of silver linings, a lot of beautiful, beautiful relationships that are formed with the parents, with the moms. Christian's journey was about 20 months long, and we spent over 16 months in the hospital. During this time, I spent countless nights, 2-3 o'clock in the morning, sitting around the nurse's station with other moms, and we would celebrate victories together. We would cry and hug each other through challenging times. But it was a part of this journey that got us all through it. And it was a beautiful relationship that is just a priceless gift to even today. But I didn't do it alone. I'm joined today with my husband, Gary Barker, who is the vice president and co-founder of Gold Rush. In addition to my very best friend since I was 13 years old, Kelly Seeley, who is actually one of our founding board members as well. We make a great team. And we have for a long time. I'm going to start with Kelly. Why did you get involved with Gold Rush? And share a memory that touches your heart or a special memory from Christian's journey with cancer.
Sure. So why did I get involved with Gold Rush? Well, we've been through everything together. Proms and first dates and sneaking out of the house and weddings and your dad's passing and so many different things. And there was no way you were going to do this without me. I was going to be there with you the whole time. I think one of my best memories, and also probably one of the reasons why I love the foundation so much and why I love what you guys are doing, is I used to work for Make-A-Wish. And when we knew Christian was ill, we wanted to make him think about all the things that he could potentially do for his wish. And I remember we put together a book of all the places that he could just kind of think about and inspire him to kind of come up with this great wish. And unfortunately, Christian didn't get to have his wish, but I think one of the other wishes Christian would have had is that other kids got to experience really great things. And so I think the combination of those two things are why I did it. But I want to know about you and what it was like, because so long you were gone. You were gone for 16 months and in the hospital with Christian, and sometimes we got to talk and a lot of times we didn't get to talk because you were so busy. And I want to know, like, what was it like up there? What was it, what was a day like at the pediatric oncology unit at Fred Hutchins? What was it like?
They're amazing. Like, I can't give enough kudos to the nurses, to the doctors, to the fellows. They really, really, really become your family. I'm known for my chocolate chip cookies. And
yes, you are.
That's definitely something that it's my little love language. I bring them to doctor's appointments. I make them for friends and all that kind of stuff. So it's my little, custom batch of cookies and stuff. So I got to know and love the nurses very quickly. I mean, they weren't just treating a patient, they were treating Christian. They were treating my son. They got to know and love him so much. And so every morning I would get up at 5. I go and do a run real quick. I go to the Ronald McDonald House. I would throw in like 3 or 4 batches of my cookies, and I would come through the doors at like 6:30 in the morning, and I would be greeted by all these doctors and nurses like, give me your cookies.
Good way to get in with the doctors and nurses. Nicely done.
I literally did that the entire time I was there. And it was just, when you're so close with people that care so much about your child who is so sick, and they really did care. It was nice to be able to give back. But I mean, the normal day would be get up in the morning, I would do that, and then I'd come back and it was, rounds with the doctors and seeing, the new labs and all that kind of stuff, and really interacting with the other families. He had to do laps, so we would do our laps and say hi to everybody else, and they were all in the same shoes. Christian was in bone marrow transplant, so that's very, very, kind of a very sick ward. And just, you really are encouraging one another's children and one another, because it is such a hard journey that you want to do whatever you can to let people know you're there. And
you said the doctors and nurses were like family, and you didn't have your whole family up there. You had you and Christian and these other moms and kids, but you had Easters and Thanksgivings and birthdays. How did you make it for Christian, and how did any of the moms make that feel like a piece of home or a sense of normalcy in such an abnormal world? What did you do? Did you bring his favorite pillowcases, or what did you have to make that feel special or a little homier and not so sterile?
We would try and just do the normal kind of textbook stereotypical things that you do at all of those celebrations. We still would do Easter egg hunts, and they were plastic Easter eggs. We couldn't have really, but you just learn to adapt. And Christmas, we made a huge deal. I mean, we just
paper Christmas tree on the wall.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
Lights. I mean, we just, you just find ways to bring some of that joy, some of that
into the hospital.
Some of that, holiday spirit in.
And Gary, you weren't there a lot of the time. You were here with the other 2 troublemakers. What was that like because you guys are mom and dad, but you're also Sandy and Gary, husband and wife. What was it like to be away from Sandy for that long and trying to raise kind of 2 kids on your own here while she was raising 1 there? And how did you, I have so many questions, how did you stay a family unit? How did you stay a married couple? How did you stay kind of a present father while still having to work?
Yeah, well, that's just such a great question, and it's the divide and conquer. And thankfully we had Sandy's mom, my mother-in-law Jenny, which is just such a blessing that she was able to move in with us and help with all of the normalcy of getting kids to soccer practice, making dinner, doing the things that she could do so I could still work and maintain some kind of normal environment for our other 2 kids while Sandy was up in Seattle with Christian. And we would go and visit often as we could, but still, you're split up and you just want to be together as a family. And it's just one of those things where you do the best you can, and you realize that this isn't normal and it's not, forever, but you make do the best you can to make sure that kids can still be kids and go to their soccer game and go to cheerleading practice or softball or baseball. And you just do the best you can. And
you said something funny that I think I've never heard another man say. my mother-in-law got to stay here, and that was such a blessing. I don't think
She cooked every night. I don't cook every
Oh,
night.
there you go. I think you're the first man I've ever heard say that.
But my mother.
Jenny Gordon is
She's
an
a
angel.
gem.
She's an angel.
That is,
Yeah.
Well, and to touch on the marriage part, and I don't know if it's this way for everybody's journey, but because we were in the hospital so much, God bless us with a great marriage that anybody who's married knows it's you have to work on it, but it's one of those things you really have to shelf it. You do what you can, and you get little just bits here and there to kind of reconnect. But when you're in the hospital for that long, you just you have to just go, we're a team right here, and we have to focus on the task at hand, which is getting our son healthy again, and then we'll carry on. And my heart really, really goes out to the people whose marriages didn't survive, and there's a lot of those.
Yeah.
And it's not something they did or didn't do, it's just the situation takes a toll. So my heart hurts for people who have had to deal with that in addition, and we're fortunate and very blessed that we haven't had to deal with that.
You talked about the other moms that were there with their kids and going through much of the same thing that you were. Did you guys all become like this family unit, friends? What was the kind of relationships that you had with the other moms and the other kids, or that Christian had with the other kids?
We really do. So I'm thinking about, off the top of my head, the Roaches. And
There were roaches?
Roaches, or their last name.
Thank God. I was like, I was a hospital. Gee. Okay.
So there's a couple families in particular. Bailey Rocha went through transplant with Christian, and Taylor Carroll. He was diagnosed at CHOC right around the same time as Christian.
Oh, wow.
And we literally, we all fought together. And the kids, we'd walk the halls, and Bailey had always a bowl with some candy, and she'd pass it out to other people, and
Going
Way
door to
people's
door.
hearts.
yeah.
Smart
And
girl.
then Taylor and Christian were just really, really close, and they would play video games all the time. And then when Garrett and Kendall would visit, the three boys, Taylor and Christian and Garrett, would play video games together and just forget about the cancer. They
Yeah.
would just enjoy each other. So that's where you see a little bit of a normalcy for them, and getting to forget about, gosh, I just had chemo and I feel
Just like
sick.
the
And
kids.
they would have their barf bag with them sometimes, but they would still enjoy video games and get to forget that they're going through all that.
The Carrolls are a fun family, and now I
They are.
understand the video game connection
Yep.
that I'm sure you'll
Yep.
talk about
Yep.
at some other time. So the kids are all there. They're all, I'm sure, all different ages, from really tiny probably through teenagers. What happens as far as school is concerned? Do they just take a gap year or gap 16 months or whatever it may be? Do tutors come in? How do teachers send them stuff so they can do it when they're feeling up to it? How does that all work?
So
Gary.
Well,
No.
this is specifically for Christian, because the
Sure.
other two were in school as normal.
Okay.
We would go up to Seattle, fly up there on weekends, and maybe have a 3-day weekend or something. But for the most part, school was normal for them, because we wanted to keep that.
And our kids went to a private Christian school, and they were great about giving us a curriculum so that they could work on it when they weren't at school, and they were fine, if we had to pull them out a day, that kind of thing. And for Christian, I got the curriculum, and then the hospital supplied tutors. And
Oh, wow. Really?
A funny
I didn't know
story.
that.
Yeah, and then actually, for siblings who are there, they have teachers that will teach them.
I never knew
But
that.
Christian was brilliant, straight A's, certainly exponentially smarter than myself. And so when I was trying to homeschool him, because the whole, some of it was far beyond my pay grade, but like for math, that's not my strong suit. And so he would be,
I remember.
and he was years ahead in math, and so he'd be doing it. And so the tutor would come in. I said, I need a tutor for that. And so, bless her heart, she'd just come in, and Christian, let me figure it out here for a second. And he was always so sweet and just had such a gentle heart. Do you want me to show you? and so she's like, and so then it turned into a joke every time. Okay, Christian, what are you going to teach me today?
Yeah.
And so then he thought that was funny. So no, the teachers would come in, and there's tutors whenever you need it. I mean, everything you need, they
Then
would
do you
supply.
do you send, if he works on paperwork, or do you send that back to the teacher? And okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
So everything's covered, whatever you need. And then I would, some days where he wasn't feeling well, let's shelf this for now. No, I want to get it done. And so he was never a child that I had to say, okay, let's do your
Prod him
work.
to do.
Yeah, he was very proactive with getting it done.
And besides school, you had a little boy and a little girl here.
Mm-hmm.
How did it impact them, having their mom away and Christian someplace else? What was the impact on them? Was there an impact on them?
Yeah, and that, that's part of the toughest part, is being disconnected from, a daughter who wants her mom and her
Yeah.
mom's not there, and not being able to go to soccer games and the normal stuff that you're able to do, go shopping. Hey, I need a pair of shoes, that kind of stuff.
And you have to go with Dad.
Yeah.
Oof.
Or grandma.
Or thank God for Grandma again.
Yes.
Yeah.
Luckily. So,
Yeah.
that's the toughest part, is trying to hold down the fort here,
Yeah.
wanting to be up with the rest of your family, to be whole and to help as best you can, but realizing that the help is where you're at.
Right.
And there's a call I will never forget. Kendall was little. She was only 7.5 when he was diagnosed. And it's scary time for the other kids too. That's why Gloris does stuff for siblings, because this isn't just about the child battling. And she called me and she's like, Mommy, I need you home. I mean, all these years later, I just have to think about it, and it does this. And I remember getting off the phone and just crying and crying, because I had to be there with Christian, and I wanted to be, but I knew she needed me too. And so this is something that parents go through.
Yeah.
It's not just about their sick child. It's about the other kids that they're worried about. And I was, and I mean, my heart hurt so much that I couldn't be there for her, because I just couldn't, and so that's why I just think the world of the siblings too, because it's every bit as hard for them. They're scared, and it's tough.
You said that they have tutors for the kids who need them at the hospital. Do they have people for the moms to talk to at the
Yeah.
hospital? Do they have people for you all to, because I can see it in your eyes now, and I could see it in Gary's eyes when he was talking, and I know Gary probably would have had to seek someone out here, but you were at the hospital and you were facing what Christian had to face every day. And they had people there that you could talk to and kind of,
They have people, but I really feel like most parents just, and a lot often, you kind of have your breakdown.
Mm-hmm.
There were times where Christian coded, and it's like, once he was stable, I would leave, sob my eyes out, and then go back in. It's like you have your little thing, and then you go back in for battle. You just turn off and turn it on, and that sounds so unrealistic that you can't do that. You have to.
Yeah.
You have to. And oh my gosh, I did that countless times, where I'd have to go out and and that's where, talking about the nurses and stuff, there were some that, because Christian was so sick, they actually let him set up a primary list of nurses. So there were maybe 6 nurses that's all he saw. They were his. And so there were times where he was so sick and something happened, and they got him stable, and they're like, come on. And so we go out there, and they would just grab me and hug me, or they would pray over me, or they would, because they knew what my faith was, and they would just say, come on. And that's what got me through. Were those times where I thought, I don't know how I can do it again, and even another day, they okay. And then they would do that and pray for me and stuff, and I'd be like, okay, let's go. I'm ready to go back in.
because you talk about the kids and we think like how it affected or impacted, the kids, but your kids were little at the time, right? So they understood some, but they didn't understand to the extent that you guys both did. And you wonder, who there is for the two of you to talk to and to be able to vent to and cry to when you're not there for each other. And you're there obviously by phone and everything else, but physically there for you. You just said something, you mentioned it a couple of times in the call. You said, how blessed you were to have the marriage that you have, and how blessed you were to have your mother-in-law, which we never hear about, and how the kids went to a Christian school, and you said that the nurses would pray with you sometimes. I know personally just how important your faith is to you, but when something like this happens, it's got to test that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
How do you balance that? How do you make sense of that? What kept you going? Where did you go with that initially, and then where did you go with it moving forward?
So that is an awesome question, because when you're in our situation, when your prayers are constantly not getting answered in the direction you hoped,
Mm-hmm.
it's very easy for your faith to start, just kind of fizzling away. And before, right, or kind of early when Christian got diagnosed, Jeremy Camp has a song called Walk by Faith. And I listened to it, and it was so touching. And I actually even ended up buying a whole bunch of CDs.
Mm-hmm.
This was CD era.
Oh, the CDs.
CDs
Wow.
era. And I pass them out to all the other moms. And it talks about, I'll walk by faith even when I can't see. And he actually does a little verbal thing. He lost his brand new wife early on, and this is when he wrote this song. Mm-hmm. And he said on this video that it was hard because he got to the point where it's like he didn't even want to pray. He didn't even want to read the Bible. And he said, okay, Lord, tell me why. I just need to know why. And he said the answer I got wasn't necessarily what I wanted to hear, but it was like, no, you don't. That's why it's called faith. You need to trust me. And that's what I clung to, is I may not see the whole picture, and my prayers may not be getting answered. And I'm not telling you I had, faith of a giant the whole time, because I certainly did not. There were times I was on my knees just, begging God to change his mind and make the outcome differently. But at the end of the day, this is where it's easy to have faith when everything's going well. It's not when it's not. And this is where I just said, okay, my heart aches that this is the path, but I still have to trust you. And that's definitely easier said than done, but you have to do it.
How about you, Gary?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes some of the most impactful things in your life give you that experience that you can use to help others. Mm-hmm. And it's tough to have to go through that, but it's one of those things that knowing that God is in control, and even if it's not what I want to happen, mm-hmm. God's allowing it to happen. So mm-hmm. I can't sacrifice my faith just because of circumstance.
That's amazing. And I'm so proud of you guys for having that faith. It's wonderful to see. So you're this really super cool, balanced couple with this amazing family, but you haven't always been who you are today. And people who are tuning in, quote unquote tuning in, probably want to know who are you? So where'd you guys meet? I want the real story, and I know the real story. So
okay,
we're just a normal couple.
Yeah.
Yeah. We say through my sister. That sounds better than at a bar.
Oh, at a bar.
But
and who eyed who?
Oh, I think we both eyed each other. But it was one of those things where fate just brings us together, and you just go with it.
Yeah. It's been awesome ever since. You were talking about Christian in the very beginning, and you said how amazingly intelligent he was, and how he was teaching his tutors and everyone else. What were most amazing qualities about Christian? What were the things that to this day you laugh about, or you think, wow, that he had that going on even at his young age?
Oh, his cartoons.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you were going to say
hands
that.
down. He was quiet.
Mm-hmm.
But so when he said something, it spoke volumes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, he would come up to me and he thought it was hilarious, but he would squeeze you to where, you know, you're like, ugh. I mean,
Squeeze your breath out.
yeah. So
Yeah.
he thought it was so funny to try and give you a big hug. He did that, but he made the most creative cartoons. He loved fart jokes.
Fart jokes?
Yep.
Fart jokes.
He was a boy. All
He was
the
a
way.
boy.
Okay.
Video
Okay.
games, math, soccer, fart jokes. He was a normal kid.
Mm-hmm.
He was a normal kid. He was quiet, but he just, he was normal. He loved going to Dave & Buster's and just, you know, normal stuff. But just a pure, sweet heart. I mean, through and through.
How about you, Gary? What do you remember? The cartoons. I know you both
Oh,
said that. Hands
all
down.
the same
huh?
stuff that Sandy just mentioned. If he were still here today, he'd probably be a scientist or, you know.
Engineer.
Engineer, perhaps.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He was just this kid that loved babies and pets. Would, you know, he would go to Garrett's baseball games and play with the other little kids, even though he was bigger. But, you know, he had just such this huge heart.
And after he passed away, when we were going through his stuff, we found a whole bunch of his cartoons. And it's one of those things that pierced my heart, but at the same time, what a priceless gift.
Oh my gosh.
You know, to find
To
these
have
things that he
that.
created.
The messages.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they were hilarious. Always, like, so funny.
So
You know?
you were up in Seattle for 16 months or so, and you talked about being at Chalk for a little bit. How did it all start? What happened? What is it that got you to Chalk in the first place?
So the week before he was diagnosed, I noticed a few bruises.
Mm-hmm.
And then on his birthday, we were supposed to go out to dinner, and he had just come home from his friend's house, and I said, okay, well, we'll go. And he's like, oh, I'm not feeling very well. And I said, okay, well, just take a shower. We'll, you know, I'll make something little and we'll just hang out. And so he'd taken a shower, and so he was walking down the hall in his underwear. And his entire body had massive, probably 30, 40 bruises all over. And I couldn't see him with his shirt, you know, because he had a shirt on, that kind of thing.
Right.
No, but once he took it off, they were on his back and his side. I mean, they were everywhere. And I remember going in my room, and it was leukemia. I studied nursing before hygiene, and so it was just, I went in there, and then I called you in, and I said, Christian has leukemia. And it was late at night, and I said, I'm not taking him in right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's his birthday, so first thing in the morning, I took him to his pediatrician. I said, I want a CBC metabolic panel, like I wanted, you know. And then we got a call. So they did that, and then they said, you can go home. And even I knew the doctor knew.
Mm-hmm.
And so we got a call that, like a few hours later, take him to Chalk in Orange, not Mission. And I said, I know you're having us go there because Mission doesn't have oncology and your thing. So we walk in, and then it's another one of those things. And Chalk's a great hospital, but we walk in, and I said, it's Christian Barker, and a nurse in the back goes, he's the oncology patient. Get him back and put a mask on him. And I hadn't heard that. Like, I still was, you know, of course, hoping it wasn't that.
Of course.
That is a shock.
And so
Of
he was
course.
diagnosed the day after his 13th birthday with leukemia.
And then from there, did you stay at Chalk for a while, and then you knew to go to Seattle, or did you have to find? How does a mom and dad, when you get that diagnosis, you know, there's specialties all over the
Yes.
country, and how do you get that information? How do you figure out where you should be going? Who do you talk to for something
Call
like
your
that?
insurance company. Say,
Ah.
where do people go for this?
Okay.
Well, yeah, you can do that. I do so much mentoring for families, and of course, I never tell them where to go, but I do give consult questions on stuff that so they can make an educated decision. But for Christian, at first, we're like, okay, he has leukemia, but at least it's leukemia. That's treatable. And it wasn't till we got cytogenetics back that we realized what he has.
What is that? You need to.
Hypodiploid acute lymphoblastic leukemia.
Okay.
And they see it, I don't know, 10 times a year in the United States. they don't even know how to treat it. His oncologist said, I've been doing this for over 27 years. I've had 4. And it's something that none were still alive. And it's just a very aggressive and very resistant type of leukemia. The only treatment is a bone marrow transplant. So once that happened and I was told that, I had my 10-minute meltdown and said, get up, this isn't going to help anything. And I started researching, and I called Duke, Sloan Kettering, MD Anderson, St. Pope, like all these hospitals, and these oncologists are amazing. I mean, I'm a mom that's just calling to try and find where to take my son, and I have to know right now, because I need to be able to figure out what's up and where he's going to be treated.
But you're a mom with a little bit of a medical background. So for a mom who doesn't have that,
very scary.
It's just got to be overwhelming. I mean, I'm sure it's overwhelming anyway. But when you have no idea where to start, I can't even imagine. But you did that.
Yes. And so we researched a ton, and it's really cool because some of the doctors I talked to, like at Duke, and another one, I do a lot of advocacy. So I am doing a lot of regenerative medicine and stem cell advocacy work. These doctors who called me back and talked to me and gave me advice, I'm actually now keynotes with them. And it's so neat to be able to tell them thank you for doing this for us way back when, I was looking for a direction, and I so greatly appreciate that gift you gave us. But so in just a lot of research and a lot of prayer, we were led to Seattle, and that's why we went there. And and I don't regret it. It was very, very hard being separated from our family.
Sure.
But we knew that that's where you had the best chance of surviving this. And the fact that he wasn't anything they did, because they did literally everything that they could, and then some, to try and, to try and save his life.
And I know as we continue, and you continue to go through episodes of this, I'm sure we'll learn more about bone marrow transplants and how that all happened, and different parts of Christian's journey. What was there a bright spot in there someplace? Was there a moment that you either learned something or discovered something, or Christian said something, or that made you, obviously this changed your outlook on everything in life, but was there a moment that was...
You can share one with Christian. I want to share one with Garrett and Kendall.
Perfect.
And one thing that comes to mind is, so of course my kids get tested to see if they're donor matches, and both of my kids were identical matches. They decided to use Garrett because he was just turning 11, and Kendall was 7.5, and so they thought, and he was a boy, so they thought that'd be a good match, and so both of my kids were so excited, and they knew it was going to be surgery, and they knew because they do it was surgery at that point. And but they still seeing their reaction and how excited that they were going to get to be the donor for him. And then when he relapsed right away, and Garrett's cells were amazing, and they went in and did everything, it's just his cancer came back. And then when Kendall thought she was going to get to be the match, she was like, so seeing their reaction was just a beautiful thing.
Brother, sister love.
Yeah. Just they wanted to do it.
Yeah, some of the just bright spots that I can think back to are the amazing people that you come across. Just so generous and giving, and just people that you don't know that well that step up. Yeah. And it's just amazing.
Yeah.
You had a lot of those.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yep.
This has been great, you guys. Good first episode.
Yeah.
Well, as much as we love to continue, we are out of time, and we have some other great ones planned. We hope you can join us. Please visit us at goldrushcure.org and see what other stuff Gold Rush is doing to support the childhood cancer community, families, and children. Thank you for joining us today.